They're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke?
Yes. What is up? MCR family, another, not daily edition, because usually Sunday you don't get free shows, but you're lucky. Instead of a on-schedule championship round, which obviously is pushed back to a later time slot today, which is our Patreon-only show and podcast. You can find that obviously on patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio if you want to find more content after this live fight chat. But tonight, or today I should say, or tonight if you're in UFC Hamburg over there in Germany, it's Shogun Rua versus Anthony Smith for the main event, UFC Fight Night 134, I believe. Don't quote me on that exact number here. But obviously, Shogun Rua is walking out as we speak. Excuse me. And we're going to sit here, chat, discuss the fight, break it down live, give our immediate reaction. And, of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share the show, and tell a friend about the MCR movement. Get hyped. Shogun Rua, I doing tape study and obviously, just looking at his resume a lot these past couple weeks. You always forget about how great of a run he went on in Pride and how quick of a drop-off he had. He went from knocking out Machida in a rematch that was emphatic. It felt like the comeback of Shogun in a sense, the end of the Machida era as proclaimed by Joe Rogan, and then the next fight after a knee injury, a knee surgery, he fights probably the greatest fighter of all time in John Jones, out of nowhere, late notice, after Rashad Evans drops off, and the rest is basically history. He has his run through Pride. He had a little bit of ups and downs in the early part of his UFC career, and then obviously he just never seemed to get it right. Losses to Chael Sonnen, OSP, Dan Henderson, Forrest Griffin early on in his UFC career. Let alone, you think about the run Shogun has been on, not only just in terms of just a run of wins, but just like his career. He's been fighting for almost 2 decades now. His first loss was his 5th pro fight, and he fought the great Babalu Sabral, a guy that I personally had some awesome time training with. Great guy. Babalu at 2003 was a monster. And Shogun was, 18, 19 years old at the time? So Shogun has been fighting nothing but elite competition basically his entire career. And even though he's now actually finally at the old age of 36, he's been old for a bit. How old was he when he fought John Jones? That was in 2011. That was 7 years ago. He was 29 years old when he fought John Jones, and he was already an old, faded version of himself. He already had a decade of pro fighting at the top under his belt. That was just crazy to think about. Just overall, just retrospectively about his career. Win, lose, or draw here against Anthony Smith, he will always go down as a legend. I would argue, him and BJ Penn are similar in a lot of ways. Fighting outside their weight class, being sort of a seeming evolution of the game at the time when they came along. When Shogun was stomping people out in Pride, he felt like a different version of a Vandalay. He felt like a more refined, a great Muay Thai striker, vicious knockout power, great jiu-jitsu. BJ Penn, phenomenal boxing skill, and obviously being one of the greats in terms of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, at least in that era. I think there's a lot of similarities there, especially in terms of the level of competition very early on in their pro careers. It's not surprising they both have had ups and downs throughout most of their career while beating some of the best in the world. Anthony Smith, though, I would say not necessarily a similar case, but more of their journeyman, sort of gatekeeper, a guy that lost to Josh Neer going on probably, 5 to maybe 8 years ago now. A guy that had a ton of losses on the regional scene, sort of stumbled his way into a UFC spot, and has done pretty well since being here. Obviously, he has losses here and there in his UFC career, but the guy has been, in the last 2 years in his UFC career, only losing to Cesar Ferreira and Thiago Santos, and those are two really respectable middleweights. Now he's at 205, fought Rashad Evans, who, let's be honest, is a faded shot version of himself. Knocked him out in one round at 205, and now he's fighting Shogun Rua, is also a faded guy. I predicted on our Wednesday preview show, which you should go check out, just to see it. Why not hit that like button on that too? Anthony Smith should win this, even though he is obviously not the skilled guy, the type of guys that usually beat Shogun Rua. We've seen Shogun lose to, I think, young guys who've had a bunch of losses. Look at OSP, a young athletic guy with a bunch of power. I think Anthony Smith is similar to that. Though, I know Kyle in the chat saying he thinks Shogun is going to win this via TKO round 4, and he says, seems like the only thing going against Shogun is the narrative that he's shop worn. But I still think that he has more tools than Smith, and just might even have better cardio too. Guess we'll find out, ... First round has started, ladies and gentlemen. It's 4 minutes and about 20 seconds left in the round. About 40 seconds have been spent. Both guys feeling each other out. Some low kicks being exchanged. Good lead left hook there for Anthony Smith. I definitely see where Kyle's coming from. That from a technical aspect on paper, Shogun is better. But I think that can only go so far if you're old. Technically you can be very good, but if you're no longer athletically skilled, if you no longer have the ability to take these shots, it doesn't really matter how technically skilled you are. Anthony Smith teeing off on Shogun right there. Good front kick to the jaw. Lands some good shots there. Shogun. Oh, 1-2. Stagger Shogun. Shogun's hurt. Anthony Smith going in for the kill. Loading combinations. Right hand over the top. Shogun is definitely hurt. Oh, Shogun's out on his feet. The fight is over. Wow. Anthony Smith knocking out Shogun. Shogun trying to come to his feet right now after being basically woken up. Emphatic knockout victory for Anthony Smith. And Kyle in the chat saying, "Welp, ... Ah, man. Shit happens, right? Fight IQ in the chat saying, "What's goody?" What's up, Ron? Anthony Smith scoring a emphatic, dramatic first round knockout of Shogun Rua. Continuing his run of knocking out former greats. First Rashad Evans, now Shogun Rua. For a division that definitely needed new life in it in some capacity. Anthony Smith, welcome to 205. I know I'm not the biggest fan of this, but he really came away with no damage. It's the first round. It was quick. They might try to offer him that Alexander Gustafsson fight in a week or two. Just saying. That's definitely a possibility. Fighter IQ saying hi and bye. Oh man, it's great work there, Anthony Smith, man.
I want smoke.
Yeah, you do. Salute to him, man. Definitely making a statement here. Shogun. Oh man, this knockout that they just showed on the replay. I mean, it was standing elbow. I think was the last shot to really put him out there against the cage. But tons of right hands. Beautiful boxing right there. A lot of combinations, a lot of volume there, and all of it was accurate. Fight IQ saying LOL, going to be a short stream. Yeah, you in there with one-liners. I should call you Robbie Hearns. Again, just impressive. I didn't think it was going to be that easy, but it was. And I think we have an answer here as to how shot-pouring Shogun Rua is and potentially how good is Anthony Smith in this division. Obviously, that's been it, ladies and gentlemen. As Fight IQ says, it's going to be a short one tonight. Thank you, Anthony Smith. Be back basically right away. 2:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Eastern time. So basically 30 minutes from now, we're going to be on live on patreon.com/MixedCombatRadio. It's our exclusive Patreon-only podcast. And we are live every day, Monday through Friday. Same time as basically this, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Monday through Friday, live on YouTube, obviously on podcast form and iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. But again, we're going to be right back for all of you Patreon listeners, so do not worry if you're a Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, I mean, come on. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life here? Come on. Get on Patreon. Now. Anyways, digressing. I hope you all have a great one. You can find me at Matt Hunter MCR, all platforms. Obviously, Mixed Combat Radio, all platforms, except for Twitter, because Twitter doesn't allow enough characters. MCR Radio Show on Twitter. Be back, obviously, tomorrow for the full, sort of review of this UFC card. Obviously, the boxing that happened yesterday. Monday, tomorrow, full review of that, live on YouTube. Obviously, on podcast form later. Prospect, Spencer, Georgie Porgy, Ron, Kyle, what is up, everyone? I hope you all had a great time watching this super quick fight. Remember, if you're not on Patreon, again,
I want smoke.
come on, what are you doing here? You can do better here. For as low as $1 a month, you get this show that's coming on in 20 minutes. And guess what? You get to make the topics of the show. You get to ask the questions. It is a completely Patreon-driven show. But yeah, see you on the next one. Adios. Peace.